Before the first drop of rain hits the ground, the Copeños already know about their inevitable fate flood. Every monsoon season, the city goes underwater. The azure waters, once the people's friend, turn into their foe once rain starts pouring down, the same sea morphing into an ever-lurking threat. High winds uproot entire fields, and heavy rains claim lives.
In the recent months, the city has faced flooding far beyond normal, with the city government declaring a state of calamity in July of this year, after heavy monsoon rains and high tides.
From elevated high tides gaining height by 0.2 meters to inadequate drainage, the risk is far too threatening. The city is a coastal area that sits on the edge of the province of Pangasinan, with a population of 145,000 people and 29,000 households.
Situated within the city is Pantol River, a system that opens up to meet the sea. It's a source of abundant fish and shrimp, but now it's the same source of vulnerability.
This city's disaster risk profile acknowledges the various river systems flowing through Dagupan, all of which empty into the Lingayen Gulf.
Because of the city's proximity to bodies of water, flood risk is a known, almost chronic issue. Barangays like Pantal and Tambak have their land changed from river tides.
A mere night of heavy rain is enough to endanger the lives of their residents. Amid the rising waters, one family continues to persevere, fighting for their future. Meet Maris Febreo, a humble seller situated within the busy markets of Malingas. She makes a living by selling fresh produce every morning, filling up the tables of the ordinary Dagupinos to keep her family afloat.
Ano pong pangalan nyo at ilang taon na rin po kayo at ano po ang inyong trabaho?
Ako si Maris Febrio, 38 years old, taga Bunuan, Binlog. Nagtitinda dito sa Dagupan. Kuwan na, 15 years, mahigit na siguro, or 20 years na akong nagtitinda.
So, kamusta ka at ang iyong kapamilya pagkatapos ng mga nagdaang bagyo?
Ngayon parang yung nagdaang bagyo talagang wala. Out of zero kasi siyempre yung puhunan namin namin doon sa pagkain. Siyempre yung nagdaang bagyo, hindi kami nagtinda. Ilang araw din yun, mga 3 days ata o 4 days na hindi kami nakapagtinda. So kakumpisa lang ulit namin magtinda ngayon.
Gaano kalawak ang pinsala na gawa sa iyong tahanan?
Sa tahanan, ano rin siya, nung nagdaang bagyo, yung mga puno na tumba-tumba, tapos yung kuryente, ilaw, tubig, wala. As in, wala. Ang hirap.
Ano ang pinakahirap na bahagi ng pagbaha na ito?
Dito sa Dagupan, mahirap kasi siyempre lubog sa baha yung Dagupan. So, pero sa bahay namin, walang baha. Pero siyempre pupunta kami ng palengke para magtinda, kaso baha. Hindi rin kami makakapagtinda, wala rin kasing buyer.
Ano ang reaksyon ng iyong mga anak sa sitwasyon na ito?
Nagtataka sila, siyempre. Kasi ngayon lang nangyari ito ngayon lang nila nasaksihan yung ganitong paghangin, natatakot sila.
Ano ang maaaring gawa ng iba at gobyerno para sa ito?
Ginawa ng gobyerno nung bagyo, nung kasagsagang bagyo, nakatanggap din kami ng yung relief goods. Tapos may nagre-rescue rin sila.
Maaari mo bang sabihin sa amin ang tungkol sa iyong negosyo bago tumama ang bagyo at paano ito naapektuhan?
Nung bago dumaan yung bagyo, okay naman yung pagtitinda namin. Okay naman, nakakaraos din. Pero nung pagkatapos tumama ng bagyo, wala, back to zero nga kasi siyempre nawalan kami ng puhunan kasi yung puhunan namin nga nagamit nga para sa pamilya.
Bilang breadwinner, ano ang ibig sabihin ng pagkawala ng negosyo para sa iyo at sa pinansyal na seguridad ng iyong pamilya?
Ako, ko, sa tutuusin talaga, ako yung breadwinner kasi siyempre sa aming pamilya, ako lang yung naghahanap buhay. Yung asawa ko naman may trabaho, kaya lang siyempre ako lang niya talaga yung pinagkakakitaan ko talagang araw-araw. Bilang breadwinner, nung nasalanta yung bagyo, masakit, siyempre nawalan ako ng trabaho. Saan ako kukuha ng yung pang-araw-araw namin? Kung wala ito, yung pagtitinda namin, talagang mahirap kung wala kang trabaho talaga. As in, kaya mahirap maging breadwinner.
Anong mga hamon ang kinakaharap mo sa pagsisikap na mabawi ang iyong negosyo sa napakahirap na hamon?
Sa ngayon, ginagawa ko yung yung gabi, ginagawa ko na lang araw. Kasi siyempre, sa panahon ngayon talagang taghirap. Lalo na nung dumang bagyo, nawala nga lahat, pati puhunan. Kaya yung gabi, at sa gabi sana, matutulog ka na, hindi ka pa matutulog, magtitinda ka pa. Siyempre, yung nawalan nga yung puhunan mo, kailangan mong babawi. Kaya doble kayod talaga.
Nakatanggap ka na ba ng anumang suporta o tulong para sa iyong negosyo mula sa gobyerno, pribadong sektor o mga ordinasyong pangkomunidad?
Nung nagdaang bagyo, nakatanggap naman kami relief goods lang. Pero nung ibang taon, nung last year na bagyo, nakatanggap kami ng pampuhunan binigay ng gobyerno. Itong bagyo na ito, yung relief goods lang po.
Ano ang naging emosyonal na epekto ng pagkakaroon ng pagtigil sa iyong negosyo?
Emotional. Siyempre, kakalungkot kasi siyempre, nung dumaan yung bagyo, wala nga yung puhunan ko. Nawala yung puhunan ko, kaya ngayon naghihikahos kami sa pagtitinda, kung paano ulit. Ngayon, bawal-bawal na naman, saan kami magtitinda? Kaya kami, nagtitinda na lang kami tuwing gabi. Kasi siyempre may tiyanggi ngayon. Yung pwesto namin na dating pwede, ngayon nirerentahan na nila. Ngayon, sa umaga hindi kami nagtitinda, gabi lang talaga. Okay na.
However, the heavy rains have impaired her ability to generate income for her family, resulting in heavy losses. Indeed, she is not the only one who suffers such losses. Around 2,700 families within the city were put into evacuation shelters during Typhoon Uwan, after their lives were jeopardized by the typhoon. This is a reality that is suffered by many. Not only do individuals find their family life strained, but their businesses are too. To better understand the impacts of floods in businesses, we sat down with another entrepreneur, Alvin Fernandez.
Yeah, I'm Alipio Vittorio Ramondi Fernandez. I'm actually 55 years old. I've been in Dagupan City since a long time ago. I've actually served in Dagupan in a private capacity, in a public capacity, and right now, once again, back in private. I'm a lawyer, and in 2013, we also established a restaurant in Dagupan City called Ciudad Elmina Fishing Village.
So what is it like running your restaurant every day? Do you like your routines, how it operates, and how do you manage your staff?
Actually, I used to run the restaurant. I don't run the restaurant anymore. I'm more into the law profession. But running the restaurant is actually quite easy when it comes to operations. You simply have to have good public relations with your customer, giving importance to the business that they are giving to the restaurant. The hardest part of running a restaurant is actually on human resources. Human resources is quite hard to manage in the sense that you would not have any problem with the employer-employee relationship.
Have to go through in your routine?
Well, actually, in Dagupan City, it's not simply a matter of Super Typhoon Uwan, but it has become a regular occurrence that there are floodings. Whether we have typhoons, we have super typhoons, we have a regular occurrence of high tide flooding. When you talk about high tide flooding, you're actually talking about water coming from the river, entering the drainage systems of the Gupan City, and this water will be going out of the roads. And when there is impediment or slowing down or stoppage in the movement of people, economy, and other businesses also slow down or sometimes stop, because mobility is very important when it comes to our economy. With several days of flooding wherein the restaurant was submerged, there were a lot of damages in our equipments, in our tables, in our chairs, in our flooring. And during the height of Typhoon Uwan, a lot of the areas in the Gupan City have experienced power outages. There were flickering of electricity, which actually destroys freezers, destroys inverted freezers. And so the damage, the effect of typhoons, flooding in the whole of the Gupan City in businesses has a strong impact, not just on the damage to property, not just on the spoilage of food, but it also affects everyone. So losses for the opportunity to earn for our people. Physical situation of the Gupan City from 2001, 2004, and 2007 is different to the physical situation of the Gupan City from 2008 going forward. Because in the olden days, the New De Venecia Highway are actually all fish pond. They're all underwater. However, in 2005, because we were trying to avoid the conversion of this particular area, the New De Venecia Highway, to become commercial area, there was a passage of Sangguniang Panlunsod Local Ordinance, if I'm not sure, it's 1850 or 1851 of 2005, which actually is the comprehensive land use plan of the Gupan City and the zoning of the Gupan City, which states that there could never be any conversion in that particular area. However, with the change of leadership, meaning to say the change of the local chief executive, and of course the changes in the membership of the local legislators known as councilors, new priorities, new development directions were set forth by the new mayor at that time. So there are a lot of things to be considered in the flooding in the Gupan City, but there can never be any conclusion as regards to the causes of flooding in the Gupan City until there must be a study made. However, when it comes to the biggest drainage, biggest flooding outlet of the city of the Gupan, which is our river system. Action.
So the final question is, what message do you have to the Gupan City with regards to flooding? Like, what do you want to say to wrap up?
Well, actually, to the people of the Gupan City, flooding situation could not easily be solved as of present with the current condition of our river system. We do believe that in flooding, we have to solve the situation of the water flow, not just of our regular drainage, but of course for the flood waters that come in from other municipalities. As was mentioned, the Gupan City is a catch basin of the municipality of Santa Barbara, Calasiao, and other municipalities wherein the Sinukalan River is the source of flood water, excluding that of the rain itself, which goes down directly in the Dagupan City. And we also have 6 other river system in the city of Dagupan, also known as tributaries. So it is a matter of proper dredging, because as of present, we have seen that the city of Dagupan has chosen to have road elevations. So it is a solution, but we are not so sure about the best solution that is good for the Dagupan city. It is a matter for experts to decide on this matter. But with the current situation of the Dagupan city, all citizens must be vigilant in giving their opinions, suggestions, and feedback on how the government is trying to solve the problem. It is not a matter of being against the government. It's actually a matter of people's participation. Let's all remember that the government right now is running under Republic Act 7160, known as the Local Government Code of the Philippines. The Local Government Code of the Philippines actually comes also from the Constitution itself. And the Constitution itself actually came from the People's Revolution, which happened in 1986, giving and empowering the people for self-determination. Hence, people's participation, people's feedback, and watching over programs, watching over legislations being crafted and passed, enacted, adopted in the city of Dagupan is not a matter of the people being obstructionists, but of people trying to become part of the government in which it was created.
The flooding impacted their business drastically, causing a strained relationship he had with his employees. Attorney Fernandez was also the previous vice mayor in the years 2001 through 2007. He brought meaningful insight into the changes within Dagupan since his time serving in the city. Given its average elevation of only about 1 meter above sea level, the city of Dagupan City faces an inevitable threat from both rising seas and sinking land. As the waters rise, so do the voices of Dagupan. Voices of business owners who refuse to give up. Voices of families who continue to hope. But this challenge is not theirs alone. It is a call to our leaders, to our institutions, and to everyone. If we don't do anything, how long will Dagupan continue to sink beneath the tides? How many more livelihoods must drown before we rise together? And how much time do we really have left to protect Dagupan City?